Have West Ham got their man? I was only here about 40 minutes ago having a conversation with you about West Ham's striker search is intensifying because we were and strongly linked to Ivan Toney. And of course, John Duran, the Colombian international from Aston Villa. But the breaking news coming out of the club is that West Ham are edging very close to bringing in the Aston Villa striker, John Duran, to the club. That is according to reputable 𝘽𝙍𝙀𝘼𝙆𝙄 employee. Of course, breaking the news earlier on that West Ham are advancing in talks with the club, and it looks like John Duran wants to push the move forward with West Ham. Now, he's also gone ahead, Duran has, and deleted all of his social media feeds in reference to Aston Villa. So you can see that, you know, he's ready, obviously, himself to make a move. And it looks like we've intensified our striker search by literally choosing the number one target, which seems to be John Duran coming to West Ham. Now, there was loads of talk about Aston Villa asking for a specific package. They were looking for upwards of 45 million. West Ham were never going to pay that amount of money, but West Ham feel like he's a sort of player that fits the system of under Lopetegui and can really thrive upon his guidance of moving to the London Stadium. He is 20 years old. He's got a lot of experience for a young player. And apparently there's a deal to be struck because West Ham aren't going to pay the money that Aston Villa want, but it looks like we have maybe struck a deal, which means that we could get the player on a lower fee, but with added add-ons, like I mentioned earlier on. So they obviously believe in the faith. It could be a victim of the situation that Aston Villa are in, where they need to sell to buy in order to make the presence in the Champions League. And they obviously see him as a massively great future prospect. However, they are putting the add-ons in there to make sure that they can cover the costs of a player that they believe will go further on to make it. Obviously, there is no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees in anything that you do, but there is obviously some hope that the player will go on to achieve very good things. Now, the next asking price was around about £35 million. Apparently, West Ham didn't want to pay that, and we're looking at a deal close to £30 million with, like I said, some interesting add-ons, which will be advantageous if West Ham do sell him for Aston Villa. Now, it looks like we're inching closer to bringing the Colombian international to the club. Again, he was frustrated at his time under Emery at Villa Park, but it could be an exciting prospect, definitely a prospect for West Ham. And Villa's owners themselves are in the situation where they spoke out about their restrictive PSR rules and how that could potentially impact their ambitions. So they're going to need to sell. And of course, they've just recently sold one of their best players, 𝘽𝙍𝙀𝘼. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I seen the deal going round. But then spent that money on bringing Onana in the midfield and Premier League proven midfielder. And it looks like they are looking to bring in João Felix as a player, the Portuguese talent coming in to Aston Villa, but he will cost them some decent money as well as decent wages as well. And it looks like this is why they're potentially open to selling Duran to West Ham to balance the books accordingly. And I think it is a big blow, according to Aston Villa fans. It's a big blow. You know, a lot of them rate him highly, but they do also have Ollie Watkins, and Duran is always going to probably struggle to get in regular game time as much as he wants under the previous, you know, situation that Ollie Watkins has at Aston Villa. But I think Duran fits exactly what West Ham are looking for. 20 years old, Premier League proven to a certain extent, international player, and has a lot going for him. But one of the biggest things he's got going for him is his explosive pace. My word, honestly, and that shows you that maybe West Ham are trying to develop that attacking option. And if you put him in between the sticks, but in between players like Kudus and Bowen, and if Paquetá stays, then you start to see what potentially exciting prospects we have moving forward. But he comes with a good reputable record, you know, very well thought of in all of the teams that he's played for. Played in Colombia. You know, he made a real impact at the age of even 15 when he played in his Colombian club in Envigado before moving to the MLS with the Chicago Fire, where he contributed 8 goals and 5 assists in only 1,300 minutes during the 22 campaign before he did move to Aston Villa. I think at the time, I think it was a young member Juan Pablo Angel. I think he recommended him to Aston Villa at the time. And, you know, he's definitely a promised potential player. And he has definitely got room for movement, room to develop even more than what he has. But if you haven't already, and if you don't watch regular Premier League football, you'll see that he scores some really good bangers. He likes to shoot from distance. He likes to work flanks. He's definitely an exciting prospect. He's not going to set the world alight in terms of our wage ambitions, so he fits the criteria there. He's young, he's vibrant, and he looks like he's a kind of, and I'm not disrespecting Antonio in terms of, but he's a young version with more technical ability than what Antonio is. If you think about Antonio without the technical ability, sorry, Antonio, you describe him, you know, he's a bull when he goes forward, you know, strong, he's quite pacey, he's quite, you know, explosive. He's not technically gifted, but I would say Duran's got all of that plus the technical side to his game. Great at holding up the ball, great at holding up the play. And to be honest with you, he's quite an exciting player. I said it in the earlier video. I've got Colombian friends who absolutely rave about this player. So we should be excited if he does. And he does get his move to West Ham. And it looks like that's what he's pushing for. So the breaking news coming out of close to the club is that it looks like West Ham are going to move forward and try and bring in John Duran, who's looking to push away for the move. Aston Villa have already got their eyes set on balancing the books by bringing in another player, 𝘽𝙍𝙀𝘼𝙆, and West Ham could capitalize on that. But we'd get Duran on a lower fee, low wages compared to, you know, the rest of the players you could be paying crazy bucks for, with some add-ons, some good add-ons for Aston Villa should West Ham sell in the future. Let me know your thoughts. Bit of breaking news coming out of the club. Join us for the Hammers headlines later on. Come on, you irons.